Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to a video about two hot topics. And part 1 is the newer topic, and that is the Challenger 2 and rank 7 armored vehicles. That is topic 1, with a lot of subtopics, and as well as then the second topic being the ballistic update, Q&A, the APFSDS changes, and the new formula, as well as showing you then some examples in game and how this could have been handled better. So that is now the introduction. Let's begin with the Challenger 2 and the rank 7 armored vehicles. Oh my god, does this tank look good. No, honestly, I'm not sarcastic here. I always loved the look of the main battle tanks. I just hated what a Call of Duty high tier gameplay meta we have, how it plays out. And I think with rank 7, introducing rank 7 and then not doing anything about the gameplay, you know, only capture the point, only shoot on the turret ring or the gun mantle of an enemy tank, and just, you know, using the stabilizer and just making everything else obsolete with even more penetration values, more armor protection. I don't really feel like it, and that is before we talk about the economics here, and that will be another topic. So the Challenger Mark II, let's briefly talk about this in some realistic expectation form. So here we can see some things, and amongst all this blah blah, we can also extract here two important things. First of all, Gaijin plans to do a rebalance of the battle ratings, or reshuffling them, and that is great news. But on the other hand, this is way too late, even with the recent update. So more on this later. So a lot of the topics are interacting with each other, interlocking, just there is so much to talk about that I have to cut it, and I could talk about hours upon hours on it. So just in a nutshell. So here we can see 500mm of protection against kinetic, 900 against heat, still thinly armored lower glacis. So in a nutshell, just on the pure example of the Challenger 2, which then you can extrapolate for the Americans, the Germans, the Russians, and the remaining nations. Just purely on the specific example of the Challenger Mark II. A third of the hitting area of the frontal profile is the lower glacis, which is very thin, so everybody can go through, not even talking here about APFSDS. And currently I see also no era packages adapted to it. Maybe that will be a further upgrade or an entire new model, which we probably have never seen in War Thunder before. Okay, then this part might be really strong here. And then what else do we have? Yeah, the driver's edge. Again, very thin, but not such a tiny target. And then that's before we talk here about this monstrosity of a gap, where, you know, it's shot trapping, and then the gun mantlet area, and this will be the weakness for every single top tier main battle tank. It will be Call of Duty who shoots first, and when your APFSDA has probably 300mm of penetration, it doesn't really matter how much penetration, because then like half of the hitting surface, you deal damage to the enemy tank in a crippling way with the War Thunder game mechanics. Okay. So that will be a lot of fun. No, it's just more of the same. Then let's talk about the maps. The maps in War Thunder that we see are probably designed with rank 1 to rank 4 vehicles in mind. Rank 5 vehicles are still viable, I can get this, but rank 6 vehicles already are stretching it. I'm just talking here about Italy and especially Karelia for high tier tanks. It's just such a disgusting experience for me personally. It's repetitive, it's boring, it's annoying, it's unfun. And this unfun part, in conjunction with the game mechanics, with the high tier Call of Duty, you know, Rajbi Comrade gameplay meta, and then getting sniped by helicopters, yeah, much fun. So no new gameplay, no new game modes, just more of the same, just more expensive. Now let's have a quick look at the tech tree. Let's go here to Britain, and then we have the Challenger 1 Mark III. A fine looking tank. I'm not lying to you, I like the look of it. I'm really digging here the 3D model. And that's something that Gaijin always nailed to do, just to make it look good, but it plays so badly. Okay, now let's look at the tech tree. Rank 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 tanks. Okay, so far so good. Then we have the rank 6 tanks. And I'm not talking here about the British meta. What I'm talking here about, look, those tanks are not cheap to get. The Challenger 1 Mark III cost 390,000 research points, and you need 5 of those buggers in order to unlock even rank 6 vehicles. Very likely that you need 5 of them. So you need either to research all the 3 chieftains and 2 challengers, or get yourself one of those 4 tanks. So already you need a line, a second line. And probably, very likely, if we look at this beginning from the Sherman Firefly, you go down and you need to have the Challenger Mark III. Not only researched it, but also bought it in order to then get the necessary amount of rank 6 vehicles to unlock rank 7. And then you need to research for at least 390,000 research points, then the Challenger 2. And then you need to buy them. And the question is, how many RP do we really then need? Is Gaijin going the escalation to 500,000 RP? Again, 500,000 RP to unlock the tank. And then how expensive will it be? Will it be 1 million? Dead flat, like for example here with the Americans, the Bradley, at 8.0 it costs 1.01 million, like the IPM-1. Extrapolate this on the British tanks, rank 7 in particular. What will be the battle rating? Will it be 10.0? Will it be 11? Will we see the decompression patch happening that I want so badly for this game from rank 3 onwards, with the clash of technology, stabilizers, APFSDs, high rate of fire, or when we look then at the French here with the Lorraine MX50 with the autoloaders. We'll come back to those little buggers later. But here, again, escalation of RP requirements, escalation of Silverline requirements, and that's just the purchase price, how much silver lines you will have to spend on getting it into a crew, and then purchase the expert qualification on top of this, which will be more and more mandatory, even the ace qualification for Golden Eagles, or playing the tank an insane amount of time. And how do you even research the Challenger the Challenger 2? Because currently, is it true that you bought yourself the shot Carl Dalet, thinking, oh yeah, that's good premium, stock APFSDs, good Silverline earning capacity. This tank is responsible for power creep, but it's a rank 5 premium. With the introduction of rank 7, we will see this tank being devaluated because you only can research those tanks. So further spending of real money in terms of Golden Eagles, or buying the next package of a, I don't know what kind of premium main battle tank, which will make, obviously then also with the current mindset of Gaijin, the tech tree versions obsolete, aka pay to win within the same tech tree. I don't know which kind of tank it will be. Currently there is one, potentially 2 big question marks here. So if you thought that with the introduction of the British, before we saw rank 6 tanks, rank 4 was the premium thing, then rank 5, now we will see rank 6 premiums. You can be sure about this. And they will not become cheaper. And then if you look at, for example, the Soviet tanks, there is also the Silverline modifier of 1.3. The same goes here with the Germans for the Leopard A1A1 L44, which got a battle rating reduction of 0.3 from 9.0 to 8.7, and the shell, the APFSDs, costs per shot 900, so you will make a good progress, I guess. Currently the Germans are seal clubbing at 8.7. Before that they got seal clubbed by all the up tiers that they got. Now they are responsible for the power creep. Well done, Gaijin. And then, if you look at Italy, Gaijin tried to get away with it with the M60A1 DC Ariete. This is the prime example compared to the shot Caldalet. Same battle rating, but as a premium tank, not as valuable. Because The best performing shell that you need most of the time to be competitive is the heat shell, and that costs 1,000 silver lines per shot. And when it was introduced, it had a silver line modifier of 1.0. Now, after my criticism, I don't know if they got called out on this by me alone, and that was a reason enough to change a simple number from 1.0 to 1.4. But now they changed it after that, so now it's more okayish to make a little bit of profit. There are always people that say, oh, it's not that bad because you fire only hash and APDS. Yeah, good luck then, you know, dying to a tank that you could have snubbed before he killed you with that. So that is the problem. That is my anticipation for rank 7. It will be more of the same, it will be more expensive, and a lot of people will get hyped about this, but not me. I'm past that. I'm done with this because of the simple reason that it is unsustainable, even from me. It took me weeks to get back to 110 million silver lines. Every patch costs me now 30 million silver lines after I get certain vehicles for free from Gaijin to make a video about this as a content creator, which is nice from my perspective. But even I'm bleeding so much silver line. For a normal player, he has no chance of getting into this, no chance, and that is backfiring badly because then we will see more top tier compression. Yeah, namely they are rank 7. But then they will have probably a top tier battle rating of 10.0, 10.3, at highest 10.7 for the simple reason that Gaijin's excuse will be that there are no top tier players. Despite then you seeing up tier after up tier after up tier in your Challenger 1 Mark III or your Abrams or your Leopard 2A4 or you know, for the Soviets then the TATB. You will see nothing but up tiers. It will be a complete shit show for you if you try to get them for yourself. So the few beginning days, the few first days, will be completely on the shit show side, like we have seen with so many patches before. If you're looking forward to that, you have a different opinion than I have. So that is now part 1, okay? That is now part 1. Let's have a look at part 2. And there is quite a bit to talk about. In fact, again, I have to take a lot of shortcuts to give you my first impressions of this, because I have not tested everything. I potentially couldn't play all the hundreds of different tanks in the game that are equipped with dozens of various different shell types and guns and how it all plays out. You have to play a tank for dozens of battles in a certain battle rating bracket to see various different opponents come into various different situations, test the various different shell types, how they, you know, do normally the majority of enemies that you're likely to face. Before I show you then certain examples of what is going on, I want to and just do some comparisons to show how it affects the gameplay in War Thunder. At just a few examples, I also want to stress out that I am really upset with how Gaijin handled this, how Gaijin introduced this. Basically, I'm happy that they are acknowledging and prioritizing the basic stuff, core mechanic in War Thunder that was not really satisfying, and that was how the shells how the shell penetration mechanics worked, but also simply the shell penetration values. And now we can see that they have done a lot of changes to a lot of the shells, especially in this table here, APFSDS, okay, and then for everything else like APC, APBC, APCBC, you can now calculate here with the Jacob-Demar formula, or however you want to pronounce it. And the values given here, if you take the list of the stat cards, in-game, you come to very close values now to what is actually in the stat card 2 versus what you calculate here. But it doesn't really affect such things as hash shells and heat shells or high explosive shells. So that is a big point of importance that has to be pointed out. So first of all, I think to recall here, Gaijin has introduced this in mid-patch before a new patch arrives directly on the live server without giving anybody that is not a person under NDA or whatever, or something else than a dev, the opportunity to test this. And even when you come across the testing now, it is done in a horrible way because they just have changed the penetration values. And for some tanks, that means major nerfs or major buffs. That's at various different battle ratings. And that changes then the value of a lot of the tanks. So I think now let's go to the Soviets. And the KV-2 CIS-6 always had this monstrosity of a 107mm CIS-6 gun, LOL-PEN APAG BC rounds, battle rating 5.3. Now that penetration has been nerfed significantly by over 40mm. I'm not quite sure how much penetration it had before, but I should recall that it has over 200. And that is a premium tank that a lot of people purchased in anticipation that they just have a LOL-PEN gun, versus a tank that doesn't have the greatest mobility, doesn't at this battle rating not have the greatest armor anymore, big surface hitting, long reload, big surface to hit and penetrate it with more or less ease. Just look at this, 75mm flat here as well. There are a lot of guns, even if you angle, there is the sight here, and you know, big trade-offs. Now this tank that you purchased for real money got a big nerf without a reduction in battle rating, if that is even necessary, because the gun is still very powerful, don't get me wrong. But now, how big is the change? Multiple other premium tanks have seen the same fate. Let's go, for example, to the Americans, and now thanks to buffs to various other tanks, for example, the German Panther has now a significantly higher chance of penetrating here the upper frontal glacis of the Jumbo Sherman or the Cobra King, and you see more and more of those up tiers. While this is great for the Germans, and you know, it was just simply stupid how the Cobra King could rush through, I don't know. There you can see nearly every hit here is a penetration, even from 500 meters, which is juicy. You see less and less ricochets if you're angled, but then here, yeah, there we go. So, well, because a lot of people say that this 38mm plating, when you angle it like this, you know, won't absorb anything. Bullshit, you know, give or take, even with this mighty shell, it gets absorbed into hit this part from 500 meters. And then if you straighten out, there are still a lot of parts that are really tough to crack. And this is the Panther, a medium tank with a very powerful gun, a full battle rating higher. And so then let's come to the shell types of this tank that also have seen a few changes, and the trade-off has gone. The AP shot has seen a nerf by 20mm, the stock shell, and the M61 upgraded AP CBC shell with a high explosive filler has seen a buff by 13mm. There is no reason, except for very strange situations, where to load the M72 shot. This is true for many tanks, but it was a trade-off that I was used to. Now this allows the Jumbo or the Cobra King to get more one-shot kills than even before, as a tank that still has a very strong frontal armor. So, and in conjunction with the APCR, which was a little bit of a power creep a long time ago and was the balancing factor for the Cobra King to not get really overpowered at its battle rating, despite it seeing a lot of down tiers then, that has gone. This, in conjunction with this, makes the tank more powerful. Except in a full up tier, where it gets now itself into more and more trouble. So, those are two examples where you can see that it might affect the tanks, but its basic core is still there. Let's go to France, and I want to show you two examples, namely the CA Lorraine and the MX-13 DCA, and let's compare it to the to some tanks in Germany. So first of all, the CA Lorraine, very fast, very mobile tank, but not a lot of armor, equipped with a 100mm SA-47L58 gun. Let's have a look at its penetration values for the 100mm obus de rupture. So nearly 300mm of penetration. That's a significant buff by, I think, 60mm, and even at 60 degrees angles of attack, we are now just above 100 millimeter. We will come to this, so remember this 100 to 101 millimeters of penetration against 60 degrees angles of attack for a normal rolled homogeneous armor plating. And this is now 6.0. It has not seen any sort of adaptation in battle rating. That is one point of criticism. Now let's have a look at Germany, and let's have a look at the Jagdtiger. Very slow, not fitting the meta, much longer reload, a bad gun handling, also casemate tank destroyer, lots of armor, but there is a lot of heat FS spam, and now even some more guns go through this. Just look at the T-29 as a premium tank, 6.7, and you know, all the 6.7 premium or non-premium heat spammers from the Americans, APDS, 20-pounder. This tank gets panned like no other. It has a lot of problems with its gun, with its long reload. It doesn't even have a heavy machine gun on top, just this bow-mounted one, and the side huge hitting area, bombs, CAS. It's a tank that doesn't really fit the meta. This tank has a lot of problems. Let's have a look at the gun. And it has seen, when we talk about the Panzergranate 43, a few millimeters of hit to its penetration value from 269 down to 267. That is not the point of criticism. Now we come to the point of criticism. At 60 degrees angles of attack, it has gone down from 120 millimeters, which was okay, down to 91. Bloop. In theory, this tank is now no longer able to punch through the frontal plate of a Russian main battle tank, and in this case I want to make here the comparison to the Soviet T-54 1949 as a prime example, because we're looking here at the 100 millimeter rolled homogeneous armor plating at an angle of 60 degrees. So this is our test bed. Just to prove something, there you can see the effective thickness is 200 millimeters. Let's test this in the protection analysis at a distance of 100 meter, more or less point blank range. Let's go to the French at rank 4 and yeah, CL Lorraine, there it is. 100 millimeter obus de rupture, there it stands, armor penetration 293. It should be a close call, right? It's yellow, so we shoot and we have a hit, penetration. And so we also have a ricochet. And if you do this a lot, you can see that it is a little bit a roll with the dice. Non-penetration, ricochet, non-penetration, ricochet, and then we have a penetration again. It's a roll with the dice, but that's to be expected because the numbers are very close packed together, right? So if you angle now this tank, this Russian main battle tank, I'm not specifically talking here about the lower glacis or the turret front or the cupola, which are weak spots for this tank. I get this. So I'm just talking here about the frontal armor plating test bed. As an example, we will see the sense of this just in a moment. So there we can see head, ricochet, non-penetration, you name it, and also the side creates a ricochet because it's 80 millimeters, right? So let's now go to Germany and let's go to the let's stick with this, okay? Jagdtiger. Let's go to the upgraded Panzergranate 43. Also 100 meters distance. We shoot and we have a non-penetration. And we have a penetration with a one shot and another penetration. So you can create all sorts of funny things, ricochets, hits, non-penetrations. It's also a roll with the dice, right? Ricochet if you change it by just a few millimeters, non-penetration, hit, hit. So yeah, and then if you angle this tank roughly the same way, you still create a ricochet here and a non-penetration zone there. This tank has armor-wise seen, thanks to this, a buff versus the Jagdtiger, but a nerf versus the CL Lorraine. I know that you still can penetrate here and one-shot the tank potentially. The same goes with a cupola shot. And this is then the advantage of the Jagdtiger versus the CL Lorraine's solid shot. I get this, but in terms of if you can pen or cannot pen the enemy tank at all, this has seen a massive buff in this respect. again, I'm not saying here that this is biased or that this is overpowered, but it's just a perfect testbed to just show you that I shouldn't be able to penetrate this tank at all with the Jagdtiger, even at point blank range, and yet I did it. So do we have, which kind of RNG factor do we have here? Is this now Wall of Tanks where we have plus and minus 25% of penetration value to the main gun shell? Or is it plus 10%? How close is it? Should I make here a study? How affected is it by just changing it by 3 degrees or 4 degrees or 5 degrees or half a degree at this very close ratio? I can't tell you. There is just no solid information. The stat cards mean nothing. That is the point of criticism here. And this is again where we need more information at the hands of Gaijin, where we need solid information sources which are not available for the normal player with in-game stats that are just either wrong or not reliable, and nobody knows anything for sure. I don't even know if this protection analysis in the hangar is actually okay and tells the truth about what's going on battlefields, or if the Jagdtiger mostly stands in front of you and aims down at you and gets a penetration every single time. Just this one tank versus the other 2 tanks raises more question than before. Previously the Jagdtiger had more penetration versus angled armor, where it had a slightly higher chance of going through. And that's not talking about the armor interaction rule. Is it still 30%? Is that still in the game? Yes, no, what has changed? Some of the information that I'm aware of is a few years old and it's still not updated. And this is why I think this is a bad stuff. And yet it is not game breaking, because it is just... There is still so much influence by the meta, by mobility, where the Jagdtiger suffers, that this is annoying. But it is not the end of the world. The Jagdtiger will not see a buff or a nerf in this respect, because it still gets lol penned from the front by light tanks that it can't do anything about it, because it is so slow, so unmaneuverable, has such a long reload and bad gun handling, and the armor means nothing except for you being slowed down, easier to bomb, easier to flank, versus the CLO Rain. And yet, it is 1 rank and 1 entire battle rating higher. I just wanted to point out this example and yet tell you that it is kind of meaningless, yet it is in certain ways a nerf to the Jagdtiger and a buff to the CLO Rain. And then we should have the chance, this was Gaijin's chance once again, to look at War Thunder and decompress it, make the game overall better. So within the German tech tree, just to get this, we have a battle rating lineup from 7.0 that is completely trash. Jagdtiger, Tiger 2 with a 105, Maus, E100, Leopard, those tank lineups are trash versus the opposition. The Leopard faces tanks that have either more armor or a higher rate of fire or a stabilizer, autoloader, stock heat FS at lower battle rating, you name it. Whoever calls this tank still competitive hasn't looked at other tech trees yet. I'm not saying that it is useless, but it has seriously seen a big power creep and has not been compensated for it. But you cannot get this tank down to 7.3. So we need a complete reshuffle of the battle ratings. We need to refresh the entirety of War Thunder. The same goes then for the 8.7 lineup with the Leopard A1 with the L44, the normal one, which has seen actually a penetration buff to the DM23 from 285mm to 337, but it still retains the positive normalization. This is a very powerful tank with a stabilizer, still high rate of fire and mobility. A massive upgrade to the Leopard 1. And those tanks should have a higher battle rating gap between them than just 1.0, because the performance is so mind-bogglingly more different. But then there is the massive stock grind. But still there is the stabilizer. But then it has a better SPA to support it. It also has a nice light tank to support it here in the shape of the TAM. And the Begleitpanzer 57 also has seen a not insignificant buff here to the to the APHE BC shell. Now you have a higher chance of penetrating enemy main battle tanks or medium tanks from the side and one-shot them. But then we have seen here a nerf to the APCBC round. This change was one massive dump on the current meta of War Thunder without acknowledging for the power output now of a tank, if you will. The overall performance. Tanks got nerfed, tanks got buffed, tanks got just not adjusted their battle ratings for. This all could have been worth a single patch. And now it was just done like this in mid-patch without previous significant notification. Nobody could test it, but everybody now has to suffer the consequences or abuses the tank. And that's just a handful of examples. 5 examples or so, giving you one specific comparison. And that's not even talking about the Ostwind at 4.7 that has seen again a reduction of penetration by over a third to its APHE shell. Open-topped semi-mobile mobility SPA, and then the MX-13 DCA, same battle rating open-top with good mobility, has seen a buff to 93 millimeters. So it has literally double the penetration of the other SPA with the armor piercing. Same rate of fire or even better gun handling. Also open top mobile, not a lot of armor. Same battle rating yet. And that's just talking about here the anti-tank capabilities. Oof. So some nations have to fight even harder now. Some nations have it now even easier. And then we have this insane repair cost discussion, the ammunition cost discussion, the stock grind. We have so many topics to talk about. Gaijin just dumps content out on the live server and practically feeding amazingly well detailed tanks 3D model wise to the pigs, because the tanks are nothing new, it's pointless. Gaijin has not addressed but even worsened the state of War Thunder ground forces in the current state, and this is abysmal. This is behavior that other companies don't even dare to do in their open beta, and this game is in full release for quite some time, and it's a major change that it was handled very, very badly. And yet it is not the end of the game. People will find other battle ratings to have fun on. People will spend money then on now seemingly overpowered tanks or better performing tanks. Yes, it has shaken up a little bit the meta, which is not too bad, but it was then in some ways done in a direction that is not all that good. And remember, there is no new tank map, there is no readjustment of the size of a map, of the meta, of the objectives, of the gameplay, of the reward, of the income, and the next patch is gonna be hefty in terms of silver line requirements. This 110 million silver lines, they have devalued so much. As usual, it's half-assed, unfinished, rushed content that doesn't improve the gameplay experience, balance or historically accuracy-wise. Again, beta development behavior. So much effort for making the game worsen. It's just mind-boggling. It's again one of those changes that I don't know who thought about this being a good idea in the current state. Why was it not done a year ago? What is going on inside of Gaijin that they come up with nonsense like this? Nobody can tell me. And to be honest, at the moment I even don't want to know. There are always battle ratings and game modes where you can have fun. There is even PvE, there is PvP, arcade, realistic or sim. There are planes, tanks, helicopters, ships. Yet every single game mode has its problems, and Gaijin is not attacking here the core problems. Air RB is boring. Tank RP is just less about tanks than it is about helicopters and planes. And then the tanks themselves, the nations at various different battle ratings. The same nation going from one battle rating bracket being underpowered to completely dictating the entire meta. It's just so wrong. And that's before we talk about tanks at even lower battle ratings that have gone nuts. The M4A1 FL10 at 4.7 with a penetration value of 180 millimeters. That's a full battle rating lower than the Panther. And having this penetration value. Ouch. The SA-50. Oof. 200 millimeters at 4 points. How is that acceptable? Jesus Christ. And then there is also the American 76mm, which I loved before. 150, that is like the pack gun, the 75mm pack gun for the Germans, which also has seen a slight buff. Here, going to the Packwagen, still sitting at 3.0, which is overpowered as all hell. 151, hell, let's go one step further. Let's have a look at the Marder 3H. Boof! Tech 3 Tank Destroyer 3.0. 150mm of penetration. Nearly 200 with the APCR. Woof. Just kaboom. This is... Ay. At this moment, I'm kind of... Yeah, let's make this Seal Clubber also better. There are so many tank shells that I... Oh, God. 2.3 with a Russian gun, yeah. This is so much escalation of penetration power and... Armor. The value of armor has seen another major hit. Wow, just wow. I can't even finish this video properly. I'm sorry, but this is just so... Well, I guess I better end the video. I'm just literally lost for words. It's not the end of the world, but again, it is such an unnecessary fuck up, such a screw up, such a arrangement of bad decisions clubbed together, half-assed, unfinished, rushed, not tested, no quality control. Nobody has really thought it through. Backlash from the community. People just, even new people just immediately losing the trust in Gaijin as a company. Yeah, at the end, one has to ask if this has not done more harm to the game than it has done good. I'm not criticizing every single point, but there is not just, okay, there are 3 bad things and 4 good things. That's more good things than bad things. But not every good thing equals a bad thing. Or a bad decision or bad implementation. Nothing is safe in War Thunder, nothing. There is no guarantee that a tank keeps its value. Rank 4 tanks, premium tanks, not really that viable for researching rank 6, is it? And now, rank 6 comes in, a rank 7. Yeah, did you just recently purchase a rank 4 vehicle, rank 5 vehicle, premium? Bad luck? This is far beyond acceptable. Let me know in the comment section. That's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Give this video a like if you agree. Subscribe if you want to see more. And we'll see each other in the skies, on the waves, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.